Hey, what's up? I'm Rafael de Furia, aka Rafi is me, and I am back at it again on another beautiful Friday night. And this week we are going to be talking a little bit about something, of course, that we've spoken a bit about before, moving to Italy. And maybe what is the right time to get that done? What is the right time to make that jump? But before we get too much deeper into this video, if you'd like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like, I'd really appreciate it, as it does help out the channel. As always, a huge thank you to those of you who are helping to make content like this possible. It's because of you guys that I'm able to continue making more videos like this. And of course, if you'd like to help make more content like this possible on a monthly basis, you can go to rafaeldefuria.com/Patreon, or to help out just once, you can go to rafaeldefuria.com/support. So today we are back in this home recording setup because I know some of you prefer this audio quality rather than the on the street stuff, but we'll get back out on the street. Don't worry about that. This week I wanted to talk about something that I have received questions about, and then I've also seen a lot of comments that make me think about this subject. When is the right time to make that move to come to Italy? When is that right time to just take that leap of faith? Is there any leap of faith necessary? For me, absolutely there was. There, without a doubt, was a necessary just jump that had to happen. And even though that's what I did, I'm not saying that's the right thing for everybody to do. I think everybody has to do what's right for them. And some people are less comfortable with being uncomfortable. And after being abroad for a while now, I've become almost comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable. Not necessarily in a financial sense, no, not at all. But more in the kind of adventure way, by being in a new place, experiencing new things. That has become more comfortable, being that foreigner. And I've received messages from people asking specifically, hey, I've got kids, or hey, I'm thinking about coming to university, or hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or I'm thinking about doing that. And this kind of gets into something that we spoke about, not last video, but the video before that, my Italian citizenship FAQ number 4, I believe, about that when you come to Italy, you for sure need to think about the whole job situation. And that's something I can't help you with. And it's something that really most people can't help you with. You have to do the work yourself, unfortunately. Maybe if you have a friend that might be able to give you the hookup, then that's something else. And actually, just recently, I got a message from someone on Instagram, which, by the way, if you're ever planning to message me, Instagram is probably the worst way to try to get in contact with me. Just saying, just putting that out there. I have been posting on there quite often recently, but it's still not the best way to get in contact with me just because of the whole message request system. I almost never see the messages that I get unless it's somebody who I'm following. This person said that they're, I believe, coming to Rovigo to study at a music conservatory here. And will they be able to find a job? And there were a few other questions, I think, but the one about the job really stood out to me. And that's what I was saying again in this video 2 weeks ago. And this is something that we've spoken about before in videos of mine. You can't expect necessarily that you'll be able to find a job once you're here. And especially if you're coming here looking for a visa, you won't be able to get that job and the visa while you're here. The only way for that to really happen is if you're a citizen, or if you become a citizen of Italy through descent, or if you become an Italian citizen after the minimum necessary time for residing here. Or if you're coming here as a student, I believe that you are allowed to work at least minimally. But I would say for sure, if you're coming to a small town, not to bank on finding that job, at least not immediately. If ever. It's not going to be easy, and you will for sure need Italian. And these aren't the final answers. None of my videos have the final answer. These are just my opinions and my views based on my own experiences. There may be another right way of doing it, but this is the way I would say is probably a better way to at least think about approaching it. But do you need the language to come and live in Italy? I would say yes, absolutely. You at least need it on some basic minimum level. And whether you learn it abroad or whether you learn it in the country, that's up to you. But I would say to at least come with the basics, because to really get a good sense of how to speak the language, you will not get until you're here. And depending on where you go, they may not speak proper, in air quotes, Italian. The Italian that you'll find around the country will depend very much on where you are, local dialects and accents and so on. So that's part of the right timing as far as that goes. But what about stage of your life? That's probably the question that I've seen through private message more often. I would say there are a few stages in life when it probably makes more sense than maybe other times. Then there's that time just right after university. It doesn't matter if you've studied in Italy or outside of Italy, but if you've studied in Italy, you will for sure have an advantage. But having a university degree doesn't guarantee you getting a job at all. In Italy, people are quite well educated. There's not a shortage of very highly educated people here, almost overeducated, to be able to get jobs. And the Italian job market isn't the best. A lot of Italians are looking to leave the country to be able to go and work other places, or at least places where they feel as though they could earn more. But at the same time, if you're a native speaker of English, especially American and British, English as your native language is something that some companies will view as an asset. But this whole stage of after university, it's not just that, it's also kind of connected with if you're single or not. Because if you're single, making that jump on your own, it's one thing, but there's something to be said for having someone there with you, without a doubt. And it can be something that I've seen that could make a relationship or break a relationship. It's going to be a stressful time for both of you, getting used to this whole new life in this whole new country. You really want to make sure that it's someone who you really can trust. It's a big commitment to be in a relationship, but to be in that commitment and then have that extra commitment on top of being so far away, it has to be something that both of you want. It's not something that just one person in the relationship can want. Because if it's that one person just wanting that thing, years down the line, if that other person wasn't really wanting to come to begin with, it's going to be more than likely that person will raise that in an argument or will make that an issue. Well, it's because of you that we came to this country. What the hell am I doing here? I'm just going to go back. So it's not like there is that very much. And you don't want to try to convince the other person, because if you convince that other person, then they're saying, oh, but you convinced me to do this. You made me do this. While you may want something, the other person has to genuinely want to do it of their own volition. So it's not just being single, and it's not just being after university. It's kind of that time in life before having a family. Because once you have a family, then this adds in a whole lot more complications, especially if children are involved. This isn't something I've had personal experience with so far, thankfully. But I have had friends who I've seen go through this sort of thing, where they do make that jump to move abroad and with children. And I've had friends who have children who are teenagers and children who are much younger. I've read studies about this, and I've also seen this with my own eyes, that boys and girls adjust differently when abroad. And at different ages, it seems as though there are certain strengths that kind of go from one to the other. But I would say for sure, if I had children and I were thinking about moving abroad, for sure, the best time in life to do it is while they are as young as possible, so that they can really acquire the language and not learn it older as a foreign language. Okay, their skills may not be perfect as a first language native speaker, but if your kids are learning it at like 3, 4, 5 years old, they're going to have much more of an advantage than someone who learns it at, say, 15, 16, 17. Probably. Different people learn different languages in different ways. Not all people have minds that are really able to switch from one language to the other, or really learn another language other than their own native language. And for some people, it's just a motivation issue, and some people, it's just kind of a combination of different things. So this is what I was kind of saying before, is that the university age isn't necessarily the first age where I would say it's a good age to come over. It's younger than that, but university age, high school, almost in university age, is the first time when you can really make that decision on your own. For example, just leaving high school, about to go to university, or if you're just about to go to university, even if you went to high school years before and you've had a few gap years in between, I would say that's probably a good time to come to Italy, because that will give you not necessarily a good immersion into the country, but it will give you a good kind of, like, you know, when you go bowling and you have the bumpers up that they're on the sides of the lanes so that the ball doesn't really fall off. It's kind of a little bit like that, but the ball can fall off. It's not like the guide rails are up the whole way, but it helps you. But while you're studying in Italy, that's not really living here. That's very much living in a bubble. It's not the same as an expat bubble. Oh, I'm an expat now, and I'm totally like just living that life abroad. And you are living that life abroad, but you're studying abroad. You're not really fully committed to that expat life, to that foreigner life, to really making a life for yourself abroad. Because while you're a student, you're still kind of in this limbo phase where you could go in one direction or the other and still kind of have some flexibility with that. Although for sure, without a doubt, that may not go for everybody. But I would say it's a time for sure when you do have that flexibility of tasting, just getting that little idea of what living in the country is like before fully committing. So that's not necessarily a negative, but just keep in mind, it's not real life paying bills, taxes, all of these things with living life in a country. It doesn't matter what country you're in, but you can see if there's the potential for you to have that life here in Italy, if that's what you're looking for. Most courses in Italy, you'll need to have at least some Italian. Some courses, you'll need complete, fully perfect Italian, whereas others, you could do it in English. But if you're doing a course in English while you're here, then you're very much living in a bubble within a bubble and not truly experiencing the country for all that it's for if you're not able to speak the language. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying just before, that do you need the language? Yeah, it makes a huge difference in your experience in the country overall. It's not necessarily the first stage in life that I would say would be a good time for a person to come. Actually, the other stage would be as a very young child. But that's something we'll talk about in a second because it's connected to another stage in life. Coming as a teenager to a new country can be very difficult, especially kind of that middle teenage years, like 14, 15, 16. And then there's the whole thing to consider when you're an adult with teenage children, taking them out of one school program and putting them into another. Do they have friends that they've really built these really strong bonds with, whether they're good friends or bad friends, whether you like those friends or not? If they have that strong emotional attachment and they are really thriving and doing well in their school, to take them away from that is huge. It can be devastating. I've seen it ruin kids, get set down into a horrible downward spiral. But even if it doesn't set them off in a horrible downward spiral, it's very likely not going to be the same thing that they had before, and their expectations will very unlikely be met. So to remove them from that situation, especially if they're towards the end of high school, personally, my point of view, if you ask me, it's almost selfish to not at least allow them to finish school where they are, especially if they're, say, junior, senior, third, fourth year of high school. Say if they're 10th, 11th, 12th grade, that's big to take them away from that. This is really a major time in their life at that point. Yes, as we all know, the teenage years are so insignificant going on down the road, but at that time, that's your world. That's all you know. And so just imagine being ripped away from that. And being ripped away from your home as a child to begin with is not easy. But then, of course, there's the financial side of things. Can you afford to do it? Do you need to be able to afford to do it? I came here without being able to afford to do it. That's not something I can recommend to everybody, but for me, absolutely. The risk that I took has very much been worthwhile. Like I said in last week's video when I was getting the gelato, to have these experiences, to be able to enjoy this now at this point in my life, it's something that I'd been desiring for so many years to finally get here. And because even for me in my mind years ago, I was thinking, I'm just sitting here waiting for this to happen. I would so much rather be getting my life started in this new place already. And now I'm so grateful that I am here and I have my life starting and I have my life moving, starting, kind of. It's a whole process, but it's one of those things where what if you're someone who's waiting for retirement or waiting to make that big money, that few $100,000 just so you can move to Italy and be completely comfortable, buy that perfect little apartment somewhere and that perfect little 1-bedroom apartment someplace, or a house in Sicily or someplace in the south for $1 plus the 20 or 30,000 to renovate, potentially 50 or more. Are you taking advantage of living life in Italy? Is it really living life at that point, or is it just kind of like you're crashing at the end of it all while you're spending so many years of your life building up and amassing what you think you need to come here? Is it really what you need to be here? Because during that time, say you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it may be, and you're thinking, maybe I'll retire in Italy one day. And then one day you might retire in Italy. That whole time you're building up your life in this place. You have your friends, you have your family, kids in this place where they get to know and love, and that is home for them. Even if you are yearning for that other place, that doesn't mean your family is also yearning, unless it's very much instilled to them at a young age, kind of like it was done in my case. That brain was not just washed, it was scrubbed real good. But it wasn't brainwashing. It was just my grandfather had a huge influence on my life growing up. Really, joking aside, it has to be something that the individual wants for themselves. And so yes, you can go and you can do these things. You can spend that time because maybe that actually might be the right choice for you. But if you're wanting to live in Italy, why not live in Italy? Why not experience Italy is probably a better way to put it. Yeah, it's going to be difficult if you're just jumping into it. There's no doubt about that. I don't try to sugarcoat this in my videos at all. That's why I talk about pizza, pasta, and amore. It's beyond just shirts. Like when I'm saying about the dolce vita, la bella vita, I kind of make fun of that a little bit. But there is something to be said for it because even if you are having a little bit of a hard time, you can still enjoy some of these things. That may be the initial thing to draw you in and part of what keeps you here. But it's not the everyday life unless you're retired enjoying your aperitivi on your Tuscan balcony in your vineyard after you've amassed everything that you needed in life to finally get to that point. For me, for my own interest, my desires, the priority is get to Italy now because if I want to be here when I'm older, moving when you're older is not a fun thing. To learn a new language, I mean, I know people who are in the middle of this right now who are seniors, people who've learned languages in the past, and they're having a more difficult time with language acquisition. So languages aren't something new to them, but just to be able to use it, it changes depending on what age you're at. I mean, even I can see my language acquisition skills are different from when I was a kid, a teenager, early 20s, and now at my late 20s, I can see that difference already. And having friends, having that I guess support system around you, it can be a bit more difficult to find that unless you end up in an area with an expat bubble. But do you really want to get into that, or do you want to be living in Italy, like for real? So like I was saying, there's no right answer to this. The right answer is based on what's right for you. I don't have that answer for you. So if you were to ask me, I would refer you to this video and say, you need to look at everything in your life and make the decision from there. And whatever your decision is, I hope it's an easy one. There's a lot to go over. So while I realize it may not be the easiest decision, I hope you don't have too much difficulty with it. Anyway, thank you for checking out this video. I really hope you all enjoyed it. And of course, just to get back to that pizza, pasta, and amore that I was talking about. And for shirts, baby onesies, mugs, and more, to help make more videos like this possible, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/NYAG gear. Links are all down below. Or if you'd like to help make more content like this possible on a monthly basis, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon. Or to just help out once, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/support. And thank you to each and every one of you. Your help to be able to continue with these videos is truly appreciated, and thank you so much. And of course, as always, I'm Rafael Di Furia, aka Rafi Di Ismi. Thank you for joining me on another beautiful Friday night. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all next Friday. Have a great weekend. Later.